Guys, welcome to Grim After Dark, Warhammer 40,000's only late night show for some reason. My name is John, and I'm here to misinform and entertain as we talk about the goings-on over the last week in the world of Warhammer. Before we get started tonight, let's meet the team, and this week it's slim pickings host-wise, as Danny is somewhere in the mountains of Canada, and Dickie is asleep on a, I'm assuming, plane over from Amsterdam where he was attending WTC. But we still have our priority one co-host. He's back from his government-mandated paternity leave. He's tired, he's cranky, he's gumless. He's ready to talk about things. It's our man above the 49th parallel. It's Val Heffelfinger.
Hey, it's me. Apparently we have an echo. Are you on the right microphone settings that we didn't manage to notice this?
Absolutely. I mean, if I
right,
because I just muted it. Yeah.
Okay. Alpha Droke Omega in the chat. Are you getting an echo? Echo. Anyone else getting an echo, or is it just that one
just
person?
in the bumpers as a timeless classic?
Maybe I screwed up the intro thing. Anyway, welcome to Grim After Dark.
Yeah, the important thing to realize here is that bums let us know there's not an echo, and you always listen to bums.
Well, bums let us know there's no XHO, which I'm pretty sure was a knockoff Gene brand from the early 2000s.
Yeah, like the kind with the really wide leg that made it look like you just didn't have ankles or feet.
Correct.
I think maybe that's where the furry problem started, was those Janko jeans. But anyway, the C team's here tonight of John and Val, and we have a packed show anyway, with what is possibly our shortest state of play ever. We're going to go around the net, and finally we cut out the middleman. And Val, I made our own fan fiction, and I think it's truly the greatest thing I've ever created.
Well, that's great. I'm very pleased to hear that.
Yeah. Well, we're going to find out. It's the bumper that's doubled up. Let's double check that as we go straight to state of play. And because I didn't hear that, I'm assuming you didn't hear it twice, which is great. Who knows?
Could be.
I am destined to always make the bumper, yet never hear the bumper. It's kind of my curse, my lot in life.
If you know anything about my sordid streaming career, you'll realize that audio routing, though it may seem simple in theory, it flummoxes me every time. So I thought I could route the audio to you. And I think that was creating the
I think much like Hercules
feedback.
Achilles and his 1 weak point, possibly you as Achilles, audio routing would be your tendon or ankle. I forget what it is.
That's where we got to. I did cry once when a microphone worked. I think I've told that story here.
Sometimes you guys, a lot of people cry when they're watching us when our microphones work. So you're not alone on that one.
Thank you.
Got him. I gotta. Thank you. Perfect laugh track. That's all we have. We don't have Nurgle Matthew in chat. Mark Murphy in chat coming in saying, audio for Grim is simplified, not simple, which is now one of my favorite jokes. Mark, just write for the show. We'll charge you a very small amount.
We'll charge you to write for us. That's right. That's actually can be one of our only membership benefits. You can write things for our show for us. At
the $30 a month level, you can write a segment, and we'll use it because, you guys are stuck with me otherwise. But anyway, welcome to the party. It would probably
be less racist, so that'd be nice.
Well, maybe. That'll be less editing on your part afterwards. But we're at State of Play, where we recap the high points and lows of what we've been up to the last week. And as always, we want to warn our viewers that actual discussion of the game of Warhammer will possibly be ahead. But I'm going to warn you guys here. We're going to start with you, Val. Val, what have you been up to in the last week?
Actually, I had some wholesome hobby progress over the last little while. I had my, I guess his 12-year-old nephew in town, and he really is into the Lego. He likes Lego, I was like, there's a little nascent hobbyist here. So I gave him my Orc Blood Bowl team from the first new edition of Blood Bowl. And he brought them with us because they stayed with us, him and his sister, for the weekend. And we did some priming, we did some painting, and I gave him some of the Speed Paint 2.0 paints from our friends at Army Painter.
Yeah,
I bet they sponsor this show. Yeah, they would.
Yeah, reach out.
Yeah,
I'm always in love with insert paint range here, level of paints, and I own all of them.
absolutely.
But that's awesome. Do you think that Lego is a gateway drug to Warhammer? Because I know I was like super into it before I got really into Warhammer.
Well, I mean, like he really enjoys following instructions and putting stuff together. So I guess it's just how, and he obviously likes little models of stuff. So the assembly part he was super into, and then seemed pretty zoned in on the painting too while he was going at it.
Yeah.
It's cool like watching like he's not, I guess he's a little kid still, like I mean he's 12. But it's cool like he like holds up his clown shoes model, and he's like, I really like how this is turning out, and I'm just like, yeah, it looks great, man. And I just wonder what it is about the adult brain that makes us think like, well, that looks terrible. Whereas he was just so proud that there was green, black, and red on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was just like, shut the hell up. Let him enjoy it.
We do three color minimum, Val. I will say, there was again when I first got back into the hobby like 10 or so years ago here now, a guy at the local shop, Ramon, like he took his kid into play, and he was like 12, and obviously it was terrible. So we're like, oh, I feel kind of bad because I'm beating a kid, but like it's weird now. Like 9 years later, he's like a successful adult who just kicks my ass at Warhammer now.
But that's the
And
story. That's the story of some like major, like John Lennon was that kid. Like up here in Toronto, we've got a guy named Devin, and he was that kid. Like he was just in the store at like single digit age, just like playing with grown-ups who showed up and like just beats ass now. Like I guess it's like anything. If you play it since you were like, if you the Tiger Woods of Warhammer is probably coming up as we speak. So
there's always something incredibly depressing, losing horribly to a person who's played it for less time than you like, or he's been born. I can't even use words. It's just very frustrating.
well, like sort of like when you had to learn English when you moved to America.
I did.
Like
I did.
like your brain was still pliable enough to do that, and a young person, if for whatever reason you want to invest a human being into being very good at Warhammer, they're going to get automatically super good at it just because
Yeah.
they've got those spongy brains.
It's the I can word now that I've translated it into American. Thank you for the pause that I could get that in there.
That was a subtle shot at all of our Scottish listeners out there,
including you, Ben Jurek.
Hey,
hey, it's later. But no, it's like it's weird playing people who weren't born when you started playing Warhammer. And that's happening sort of more and more as we transition into the old grognards who just gatekeep and keep people away with our terrible attitudes.
There does seem to be a healthy infilling of like new hobbyists though. Like I don't think we're alone in this. But I did find myself reflecting like on the fact that like if I keep playing these games for the next 20 years, I guess I've kind of been playing for 10 years now, like since coming back after my university find a wife timeout. Like, are we gonna be playing this when we're 60? I kind of feel like probably, and like that's when. But I mean, there's some 60-year-olds are beating it around the, on their rascal scooters out there, like beating it around some of the tournament scene. I guess it would kind of be cool. I just hope that people still keep coming up, so I don't feel like I'm just waiting for everyone.
I think it's nice seeing that
the nursing home.
And guys, this is just the episode is going to be when you get me and Val together. It's going to be a tight script that we just ignore as we go on long asides. Warning.
Conversation. This is
conversations happening.
You might call this fireside 40K.
We wouldn't because we get sued because the Brits are litigious.
Aren't they though? It's like common law.
But it's kind of nice.
There's no lawyer on the show today. Anyway, continue.
It's kind of nice to see younger people playing, and that's going to make me sound very old, but it's kind of depressing. It's kind of depressing when it's like the same people playing the same age group, and you're slowly just getting older and older, and that's kind of how the game dies. So to have all of these kids coming in, then that's great.
Yeah, I'm super curious to see what happens with Warhammer Fantasy, like with the old world, because I think there's a genuine chance that like there's going to be some converts from that Total War crowd, and they'll probably skew. Well, I don't know. Total War probably skews pretty old balls too.
Well, anyway. I would say, like the GW did fantastic marketing on and getting this amazing game, Total War Warhammer, released right after they stopped selling Warhammer. I think that was one of the biggest marketing snafus of a long time.
It was not only not a marketing snafu, but they actually negotiated the deal, licensed the product, and then later on told them that they were killing the old world.
Thank you for the licensing money, I think is how it went. We ought to
And
hear
I don't know if I'd be pissed if I was CA about that, because they got to own it. So
you get a little bit more freedom, right?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it was swings both ways.
For me, I was painting some Titanicus Knights in preparation for Epic 30K. I refuse to call it by any other name. But for my time in Titanicus,
What is it called? I could never remember. What is it actually called?
Legion Imperialis.
Right. Okay.
I believe. But I have a ton of like knights. I have like about 30 or 40 regular knights. About 12 of like the bigger guys. So just kind of getting those ready to go along with, I think probably guard. So I started working on those because I can actually work on those. And outside of that, I just wanted to bring up here real quick that as I edit this slideshow, the next one here, we do have a leaderboard here for the show with everyone on the show on there. Zeb Daughter here is letting us know for the leaderboard, it needs a title. We don't have a title for it. I thought just leaderboard was a title, but what do I know?
Leaderboard.
Also, a suggestion for a column could be number of judge calls to see who's the most sweaty. And again, you might have seen my response here. Danny doesn't need another category to win at because when he gets serious, he gets sweaty. But Val, your creative mind here, what should a leaderboard be called?
I mean, a leaderboard feels pretty strong to me. I hadn't really questioned the integrity of the name of the leaderboard. In fact, I made a bunch of T-shirts already, so I'm kind of married to it.
Yeah,
say
right at that.
Hard
guys,
as wood.
I think Val calls this call to action. Let us know in the chat. What should our leaderboard be called? It's almost like he's been asking me to do stuff like this for about 2 years now. But anyway,
not real. Well, more specifically, the last 3 months.
Yeah, let us know what you want to see on that board and what we should call it. Maybe a loser board. That's for me anyway. Bum saying most ruled against by judges. That will never happen. We're far too nice, and Val will use his fame for advantage.
It's dwindling. It's dwindling.
I think your advantage or the fame?
Both. They're both gone. I don't even know how much I had it. I just hitched myself on the back of a falcon and flew too close to the sun.
That's right.
That's all I ever did.
That's a beautiful way to get there, though, for those judge calls and that one beautiful GT moment. That's about all for. I said this is going to be the shortest segment ever. It wasn't. That's okay. Let's do a longer one now, though, as we're going to go around the net.
This button.
Oh God! Someone commented that the bumpers are too long, and I'm like, they were not long enough, and they were very short.
Really?
They were disagreeing with me because they were like, I don't know why you're saying the bumpers aren't long enough. They're super long. That's because I realized that YouTube actually puts an ad break right after every bumper. So
really, how could they possibly know that?
Who knows what YouTube knows? But yeah, apparently that's what it is. So we put it in. They detect it. They put in an ad break. It makes it look like I've been drinking for 3 whole minutes before they go back. But thanks for the ad revenue. Anyway, welcome around the net, the part of the show where we dive deep into the dank drivel the internet provides. This week we've all obviously got a lot to cover. Starting with this guy here. I found this on Reddit. It says, "Is it normal for minis to be expertly painted?" Guys, like I enjoy painting minis. I don't think they look completely terrible, but I always see posts on the Warhammer subreddits about people's first paint jobs. Spoiler, they're lying, and they look completely amazing. My main question is, are expertly painted minis normal? Or are a lot of people really bad at painting? How would you react if someone tried really hard to paint their army but did a bad job comparatively?
We were just talking about this. Nice. Okay.
Yeah, I was going to say it's a good add-on.
Yeah.
Want to jump in here, though, before you go here, Val. Bums is asking, YouTube has ads? Not for Bums, because he's a member of Grim After Dark, right? And you, too, can be a member, and then you won't get ads. Just terrible content.
Uninterrupted. Terrible content. All right, let us continue this cavalcade of awful.
Yes. So, yeah.
Was there a question?
So, are expertly painted minis normal?
It's getting more normal. I think the YouTube effect applies to like every facet of the hobby. Like just the ability to like look up and learn skills with like zero friction and like from 1,000 different perspectives from very highly talented people in different ways. Like you can like I've found myself, for example, Ninja on when I want to go get some like hobby tips. He's my favorite because I really love his style and approach. But for every one of his topics, you can go to like Vince Venturella, you can go to any number of people out there who are awesome at hobbies. So I think people are getting better at painting. That being
Mhm.
said, I really don't like like if someone has put forth the effort to paint something, they have invested time and effort, and if it doesn't look good, but they think it's awesome, then fuck it, it's awesome, man. Like I think it's better than like when I first started playing competitive 40K, they let anybody play with pretty much anything, and that was just to like keep the barrier to entries as low as possible.
Mhm.
So like I played against some like pretty half-ass bullshit, and many years ago, and you don't really see that anymore. But like I think like just to get to that battle ready standard, there's so much like paint tech, there's so much advice, there's so much good stuff out there that if you're willing to put the time in, or do as I do, just buy already painted stuff,
Mhm.
um, then like you're gonna see a lot more like basically good painted stuff, which is amazing.
I think what's important to remember is it's always better painted than gray. So like you'll see like a lot of people they're like this is a bad paint scheme. This army looks awful, and then, like even we've made fun of things before we probably shouldn't have. Because the idea is like you said, Val. It's like why are you trying to steal someone's joy? Like if they spend time on this and they're happy with how it is, why would you trash that? Can you offer hints and advice? Yeah, absolutely. But like, don't be a jerk about it. Is it normal for minis to be expertly painted? Not really. More so now that YouTube and all these free tutorials are available. But man, just do your own hobby, get your own way.
Yeah, man. If you like it, like that 12-year-old man, like he picked it up, he was like, "This is awesome," and I was like, "You know what? Yeah, it is awesome." And so I think we should just be more like that in general. And
Yeah.
then also, like, it doesn't take away from how awesome some armies are painted. If like you're not achieving to that level, like it's not. I mean, this is a like basic piece of life advice. Don't do your best not to judge yourself or compare yourself to
Mhm.
others. It's a way to be miserable in life.
And something else this thing here says is they can't work up the motivation to practice after seeing their friends' amazing things and their other friends doing great. Just to put like things into comparison, like I've seen some beautifully, amazingly painted armies that I would love to do, apart from my job and my child and this show and college and all of these other things, right?
John,
The kind of
John's got a lot on his plate, guys.
I think the funniest thing was the other week before Dickie went to WTC. He was like, "Hey, when can we meet up this week and have a chat about a couple things we want to do?" And I was like, "I'm available 1 to 1:45 p.m. on Friday and 6 to 6:30 on Saturday."
Yeah.
And I had to cancel the Friday because something came up. That's okay. Yeah.
I would say just to empathize with this guy though, like I do feel like I recognize the like the sinking feeling sometimes. Like especially when you really want something like or if you really, really admire something. Like I had this feeling watching Inside by Bo Burnham.
Mhm.
And that was a like just a masterpiece as far as I'm considering as far as I'm concerned of like cinematography, writing, comedy, all of it, and it was done by him literally in a room like the one I'm sitting in. And it was to me there was like a melancholy feeling watching it because it's just like I could like he has spent his whole life to get to the point where he had the skills to be able to do that. And it's like, if I spent the rest of my life trying to make something that amazing,
Your
um,
wife would be pretty mad.
my wife maybe, but like it would, it would take the rest of my life, and I would be, I probably couldn't do it. I guess the way I feel about this is that like, having a competent level of paint on your minis is a matter of technique that is freely available to you. and having a show that kind of runs smoothly is maybe the closest I'm going to get to making an amazing piece of creative something. So anyway, I kind of get the melancholy feeling.
Yeah. Inside, by the way, probably second favorite stand-up special that's been out this past year and a half.
I don't even think you can call it a stand-up special, man. Like it's special. It's just
jokes. It's jokes in a room. It's fine though. Moving on. Val, you brought this one to my attention here, and I would be remiss to ignore it.
This fucking thing.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
First F-bomb.
What time? Give me where's the counter? Did I make it? 25:51.
Oh, we have our Arvus glider here.
Lighter. It's the Arvus lighter.
Arvus lighter. How dare I? And just this last thing on here, Leverdamer came in with a great point saying, I think a big mistake people make is trying to apply 20 techniques they just learned off of YouTube all at once.
Fair. Yeah.
It's fair. Yeah.
Also, guys, just slap chop. Just
has one technique. It's all you need. But yeah, so the Arvus lighter, what drew you to this magnificent beast?
I just thought it was hilarious that of all of the minis that GW could like redo, and this is in resin too, I think. I don't think this is one of the new plastic kits. They've actually gone, this is the first like large scale resin model I can think of in a while. And for whatever reason, GW like prioritized this on the old Kanban board, got moved, got into production. We need a basically useless showpiece model for Forge World. That's just a box with stubby wings.
It's just like a little bus. It's a bus for
it's a transporter. It's like a less cool version of that shuttle in Star Wars.
Memo Man saying, hey, look, it's the flying minivan.
Right?
That is. So what about the design? It makes it so recognizable. What is this an endearing vehicle to you, or is this kind of a why are you here vehicle?
It's a why are you here vehicle, but I feel like they also missed the opportunity to just find another use for an armored container. Because I know they also love that in their design room. So they could have just literally put wings on an armored crate and, you'd basically be in the same place. I don't know why I rip on this thing. I guess it's just because I guess you've noted, like, you have some like nice things to say about the Arvus lighter.
Mm-hmm. I just, in the world where there is only war, I love things that are so not warlike. So like in like Black Library books, like just stories from hive worlds or kind of small scale things. And yeah, of course there is ground to air transport that isn't covered in guns. And like the Arvus lighter is like a fantastic, that looks exactly like some guard person was like, yeah, I need something to get into space. That make guys like, great, we're gonna have like las cans. Like, no. Like literally it's a bus. It just needs to go up and down. And he's like, fine, here's this. Well, then you're like, okay, perfect. And I just love that because of course there's civilian transports and regular transports that aren't super militarized and armored. And for me, this expands the universe so much more than what it is, what it should be.
I guess it is a world building piece, and like you get, and I could see this would be a neat, like, for a narrative game. I'm not sure what function it might play in Horus Heresy, but it'd be cool, like objective or like clear DLZ type thing. Like you can do fun stuff with it for sure.
Like,
but you can do that with a drop pod too.
I look at it right there, and I'm like, I want to put that on a Sky Shield landing pad, and just have it as a terrain piece on my board.
Yeah, why not?
Like at no point have I ever looked at it and be like, yeah, I'm going to field this. It's going to be so great. It's broken. But no, I want to use it as terrain. But sadly, it is a resin kit. I
would also point out that as another upside for just going with an armored container with wings, more heavily armed. It's got 2 storm bolters on it.
Yeah.
So this has nothing.
We're being told as well here that this is for Legion Imperialis.
Is it though?
Maybe.
I don't think it is. I thought I at least did a cursory glance at the Warhammer community post. I'm pretty sure this is just the Arvus lighter. One sec.
Do you know you had like Hot Wheels as a kid and you had a vehicle shaped case to hold your Hot Wheels in? This is the same for Legion Imperialis. You hold your army inside an Arvus lighter size case. So that actually opens up and fits all of your baby tanks in there.
With excitement in the engineering favor, we easily overlook news for with the excitement for epic scale skirmishes in the Age of Darkness reaching a fever pitch, it would be easy to overlook news for Warhammer: The Horus Heresy heresy, especially when the subject of that news is the airborne underdog of the Divisio Aeronautica. So this is a full scale Arvus lighter. This is not 10 millimeter.
I better get 10 millimeter Arvus lighters. That's all I know.
I'm sure they exist.
Well, but it's a beautiful kit. We'd love to review one, GW. Feel free to send. Val, I found this on Reddit, and I just copy pasted it. We called it good. Val, confess your hobby sins. I'm not reading the rest because it's stupid, but it's just asking, what are your hobby sins? Some hobby sins could be, like for me, poor sportsmanship, like gloating in victory, arguing rules, maybe using a water cup for a little bit of extra movement. Or it could be something as simple as ignoring core themes or tones of the 40K universe with different paint schemes, like maybe some pink Necrons.
Right. My biggest hobby sin probably would be just my penchant for commission painting, but not even that anymore because it's so expensive. Good Lord.
The price of things nowadays.
I don't like people's time. A lot of quiet quitting going on in the commission painting community. But no, I would say like probably just the fact that I buy things a lot, like buy a lot of stuff painted. And I kind of just like cobble. Basically, what I spend most of my time doing is rebasing miniatures so that they all kind of look like they have a common base. That's what I do. But I don't know if that's a sin or not.
No.
Yeah, what about at length about my emotional highs and lows at the table. But yeah.
This would be my main hobby sin is poor storage or transportation that damages models. I can't abide by that. I am awful at storage and finding like I went to play Danny a couple weeks ago and I really wanted to pull out Death Guard to run into him. Couldn't find half my models. While I have hundreds of Death Guard models fully painted, ready to go. Couldn't do it.
Maybe they just put themselves out of their misery.
They should because no one's playing them. And they really should. Moving on.
Yeah.
How many SpongeBobs will it take to defeat Khorne? I found a lot of good questions this week. So in this example, SpongeBob has no blood as he's a sponge, or soul because he's a fast food worker.
Yes.
So Khorne does not gain power during the fight. He's slowly exhausted by every SpongeBob he kills. Your task: how many SpongeBobs is that?
Well, I actually did read a little bit about this thread because I actually am not part of the SpongeBob generation, and my kiddo has not gotten into it yet. So I'm not well versed in SpongeBob, but I did find that it sounded like SpongeBob would make one heck of a matchup for the the Prince of Fighting. So I was impressed by SpongeBob's bona fides, including the ability to be chopped up into many pieces and then reformed together like T-1000.
Did you also ask ChatGPT who would win?
No, I did not.
No.
Did you?
I did.
Oh, and what did ChatGPT say?
So ChatGPT is like SpongeBob and his duplicates are essentially indestructible. They can regenerate from any attack and don't even have blood or souls for Khorne to collect power from. Khorne himself
did this?
Yep. Khorne himself is a godly force of rage. This is why I do that. Our generation is screwed. The next generation is screwed when this information's at your fingertips. Khorne himself is a godly force of rage and violence, nearly unstoppable in close combat. However, he relies on blood and skulls to maintain and grow his power. Without his usual fuel from slaughter, Khorne will slowly tire against the endless horde of SpongeBobs. Killing them individually will take a massive toll over time. SpongeBob has no real offensive capabilities against a god, but his endurance is limitless. Khorne can destroy his body, but he'll just regenerate. Ultimately, it would take millions, if not billions, of regenerating SpongeBobs over the course of months to finally exhaust Khorne's nigh endless rage and power. Which, by the way, that's a great short right there. Is just Khorne, like, screw you guys. I'm not even angry anymore. I'm just wandering off.
Just finally gets all of his rage out, just beating off sponges.
Yeah. But through sheer force of numbers and attrition, the SpongeBob army could theoretically weaken Khorne enough to subdue or seal him away. The battle would devastate whole worlds in the process, though. Why did you join the guard? I lost my planet in the SpongeBob Khorne Wars of 42.
Yeah, man.
Oh, but that's beautiful. Chad coming in with some ideas about Johnny Bravo versus Slanesh. I don't think in the Me Too era, Johnny Bravo's allowed to be mentioned anymore.
Is that right? I don't know. Like Johnny Bravo, I thought he was cool, but maybe he's a bit of a chauvinist.
A little bit. But yeah, so to answer the question, Khorne would lose, but it would take hundreds of worlds, many months in order for him to not even lose, just get bored and wander off.
Yeah, or just flame out. Like, so that is losing.
That is. Next up here, Vala says, you enter the 40K universe. Any miniatures you own will be tasked to protect you. How well will you fare in the grim darkness?
I would wreck. Are you kidding me?
You have one of everything.
I would be, yeah, man. But like the High Lords of Terra would get around to writing a memo about my threat to the Imperium. Multiple squigs, a stomp, a Gorkanaut, many boys, more storm boys than you can field legally in 40K these days. I would have an illegal force.
The High Lords would be like, sir, the rule of 3 says that this battle does not count.
Yeah, man. Come on.
Please leave Terra. Beautiful. That's
Maybe
it.
your Death Guard would show up again.
No, they would. So I wouldn't be able to find them. I think if my 40K universe, if my miniatures were tasked to protect me, I would be on a planet in the middle of a war, and then I'd have like some in a galaxy over. There'd be a couple kind of in a box with some audio equipment over in like Imperium Nihilus. It'd be a giant mess.
Now the bigger question is, would my embarrassingly large collection of fantasy miniatures, how much would they add to the fight? Because the orcs, I mean, they could probably like figure out fighting. The greenskins would sort it out, I'm sure. The lizard men, they got some like powerful, magic.
Would you have like some space marines being like, is that a guy on a horse with a non-exploding spear?
It's true, right? Like they wouldn't be that far out of it. I remember there was a thing that Brandt did once at like the first sort of finals of the U.S. Open thing, which was they had a AOS versus 40K game. And it was I thought it was kind of neat, but it got poo-pooed by my cool friends. And anyway, I thought it was kind of funny, and it was like Gargants versus I don't know what.
Did the 40K armies just use gun?
I think they
step back slightly.
I think they may have used guns. But maybe there'd be something there that could punch through.
It's true.
Just got to get to combat.
Well, and then you just shoot in combat.
Yeah, I guess I've already forgot about 10.
So Dickie's going to be back next week to give us the full rundown on his time at the WTC. However, due to an illness to one of Team Scotland's players, which if you want to go down to the next slide, I want to point out this is me sitting by my phone waiting for the call to come in.
I was wondering what this was.
And fulfill my national duty to go 0-20 in every round. I could have flown out, but no, you wanted a player who could play the game and knew how to use guard. And so Ben Jurek, who actually played for Team Scotland over the weekend. What is your kind of take on this? On kind of nation, you put in the title here, turncoating. Would you be okay with it? If it was...
You mean my incredible title, Benedict Ben Jurek turns code at the WTC? I mean, we worked dozens of seconds to come up with that.
Yeah, like so many seconds. I was like, I forgot to write a title, and you're like, well, what's in the show? And I'm like, well, honestly, nothing. And then
Ben Jurek, big draw on YouTube. Huge. Mm-hmm. The algorithm loves Ben Jurek. No doubt about it. This actually kind of reminds me of a hilarious moment in Toronto sports history where I don't know if there was a thing where the opposing teams goalie and emergency backup goalie both got injured. And apparently in the NHL, there's a thing where the home team has to provide a goalie. And in this particular, if you're in that scenario, and in this particular case, the on-call goalie was the Zamboni driver. And he was a Toronto guy. And the Toronto guy suits up, hops on the ice, and stones the Leafs. I'm pretty sure they lost that game against their Zamboni driver. Which
He was fired the next day.
it was fired. No, I don't think so. But like, it's just one of those things where I think it's cool that Ben got to play, because he's a fantastic player, and he got very valuable WTC experience, I'm sure. I think he did very well against in the Polish matchup. I think he was on stream for a little bit. So yeah, like he's a great guy, and I'm glad that he got a chance to play, even if it had to be with a team like Scotland.
Yeah. Memo Man coming in and saying Ben is now officially more Scottish than John, which if you believe that having your fellow countrymen accept you and welcome you is a Scottish thing, then you were wrong.
I'm curious. Do you think they had to have like the guy who just like joined the baseball team from the Dominican Republic, if they had like a translator on the squad for him, like as everyone was like going off in broguish terms at him?
He's like, table 3. No, they just found out the Ben's great uncle's cousin's aunt was married to a Scottish person.
Yes,
so he got to go in through family there. Beautiful. And then next up here is a little slide. We'll go into more detail this with Dickie next week here, but this is, thank you for skipping past my looking at my phone. This is a breakdown of what was taken to WTC Army list wise. Oh, wow. And we see sad face for Dickie and I, but there was 0 representation for Death Guard, World Eaters, Space Wolves, or Leagues of Votan. Val, you shocked to see such a terrible breakout?
No, not really. I mean, one of the interesting things about the WTC format is because they're 8-person teams. I wonder if a woman's ever played in the WTC. Probably. But because they're 8-person teams, you do have to go deeper deeper into the the Codex miasma to put your team together. But it is interesting to see any surprises in that 16 to 20 bracket and above. Not
for
really?
me, not really, because you would expect Eldari to have a really good reach. Space Marines have a lot of general toolkits that can go around a lot of people. So those don't surprise me. Necron's resilience means that you can eke out a draw with Necrons. Like if you're really going for a draw, and you can definitely make a list that just won't die. So definitely things that can pull out there. I'm surprised to kind of see Blood Angels at the bottom, Guard pretty near the bottom. Obviously these lists aren't great. Even Chaos Knights not being super up there. You would think there would be some kind of off meta choices or kind of things for a specific
Where are the
matchup.
boys? Where are the boys? I don't see orcs.
The orcs, they are 6 to 10, right in the center, beside the guardsmen. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yep. There he is. Yeah. I mean, the zeros doesn't surprise me. Although, so how many factions are we seeing being overrepresented? You got more than a team out of those, that 16 to 20 and up. More than a team's worth. 31 to 36 means that half of the teams, half of every team were those armies.
Yeah.
Which is pretty wild.
Simplified, not simple.
Hey, good old planned obsolescence, right, guys?
Val, I'm gonna have you take the Danny role for this next one. What are we looking at here?
It appears that we are looking at a vibrator of the sexual nature being used to shake up a pot of paint. And then there's looks like a screen grab from the
Incredibles 2.
The Incredibles. I almost call them the Fantastics. And it says paint shaker is paint shaker, which is something that does go over my head, I will admit. But that would be the basic description there.
Perfect. Is this disgusting genius to reuse this massage tool? Let me correct you real quick.
Massage tool. Oh, okay.
As a paint shaker.
Well, I would never call it disgusting. I mean, it's probably a high-end device. You want to get as much utility from it as you possibly can. And I will say that I use a pink shaking device for, I think it's for nail polish. So you'd see it in salons and stuff. It's got a nice silicone tip. Probably looks like more of a sex toy than even this does.
It's probably really important to have a different shaking tool for your brown paints, because Probably nice. I don't want to have that there. But on that range, and as you're starting to talk about it as well, what are some other common household items that you use to hobby?
Actually, this was one that I whipped up for the young man who was hobbying with me. It was a wet palette. Just it's literally some toilet paper and parchment paper in like a shallow dish, and boom, you got yourself a wet palette. And like when I put one together for him, I was like, I can't believe I paid for like a TM wet palette from somebody. But then like there's so many different things that I have that fit that. Like, why would you buy this? Description. You just run out of things to buy after a little while.
Yeah. The ones like I see here super common, and I only started using about a year or so ago, is makeup brushes for dry brushes.
Oh yeah, great. That's a great one. Yeah. Although makeup brushes ain't cheap a lot of the time. Like if you were just going to like a CVS or up here, Shoppers Drug Mart, you know, it's as much as an actual brush, but they do work way better.
Yeah. For our friends in England, Boots, would definitely do that for you.
What's the other one? There's another one too, isn't there? They have two.
Super Drug, I think, or is that just super old of me? I don't know. It's been a while. I told you a story before. I went home and I went to a store and I tried to order. I was like, "Can I have a macaroni pie?" And I got the response of, "We haven't sold those in 9 years."
I believe you've also used that anecdote already on the show.
That's what I think. I'm pretty sure I've told you. It makes me feel very old and very bad.
Well, it turns out you hadn't been to the country in some time, and you know we can give you a pass on that one.
That's fair.
I'm surprised they didn't actually just still have some of that exact pie on the shelf, despite it not being made for 9 years.
Or they were like, "This is 9 years old. You sure you want?" I'm like, "Absolutely, give it to me."
100p, put it in me.
We have other things I looked up here. People use cardboard for making homemade painting handles and carrying trays. I don't.
Oh yeah, I use paint. I use like paint stir sticks.
That's my spray sticks
with double-sided foam tape.
Yep.
Another ninja on tip, although he uses larger sticks than I do. Yeah.
And then in chat, Burger Brand's coming in saying, honestly, the dedicated wet palette parchment paper works so much better than kitchen parchment paper, which Val and I would agree with once that Army Painter sponsorship goes through. Up until then, I'd say it's pretty equal. And then wine corks. Are you a convert of wine corks?
No, I just hold on to the base.
I think the one I don't like about corks is people use it for basing. To try and make like rocky looking things, like if you crumble the edge and you get like a sheet of cork.
It often looks like a crumpled
sheet of
cork.
Yeah, and it just looks like a piece of cork that you've painted gray.
Yeah.
This next one here, Val, is called, I call this Make-A-Wish crons. I've been sitting on this for a little while.
Yeah.
Samuel's wish was he asked for his own sub-faction from Warhammer, and they made his wish come true. He had a Make-A-Wish, and he got his own models and personal edition of White Dwarf with his very own sub-faction in there. My question to you, Val, is would you take the origin into consideration when playing against this, or would your competitive spirit take over? Would you realize...
Is it the actual kid?
That's the actual kid on the... Well, yeah, let's say it's the actual kid. We're going to be positive.
The actual kid?
Yeah,
I think I would try and be a good person. You'd have to judge it, like, because the actual kid, if he wants a game, you know, like it would be a disservice to him to not try. But you know, to you know, lay down, give the guy a dub, as long as it wasn't clearly taking a lay down. Very rarely am I against an opponent that I truly need to. Really need to take it down a notch against. So yeah, like I feel like, yeah, if it was this person, and you know, like, yeah, I think I maybe would try and find a way, or at least give them, you know, the benefit of the doubt. A lot of friendly edges. Not that they would probably need it against me. Danny would be a better person.
Destroy him.
He would probably crush him.
Yeah. And I wanted to bring this up here too. I've been sitting for a little while, like looking for the best place to bring it in. But this was like an amazing thing.
Also, I'll note that GW immediately got rid of sub factions.
Maybe his wish was to have the only sub faction. And they're like,
Perhaps.
okay. But it was a great thing for GW to do, and also for Make-A-Wish for kind of making that happen. And that's a
Yeah,
super
for
cool
sure, man.
thing, which I think is on display at Warhammer World in that little display right there. But as you can see, 26th of April, it's been on that for about 3 or 4 months.
Mhm.
Next up, I called this one Fast Hole because that's what it's called. And I think you shared this one with me, Val, is from time to time I take a couple days off work to visit Nottingham. This confuses my colleagues, and a rumor has circulated that I visit a prostitute. In fact, I go to Warhammer World and I'm too embarrassed to correct them.
Yeah.
Val, what if people assumed you're doing when you're actually playing Warhammer?
Well, I think I don't know. I think I tweeted back at this, which is that like because one of the like I always go to like American cities or like I'm traveling, right? Like when I go to big tournaments and stuff. So like a lot of times it's Las Vegas, and so I work in sort of a finance. I work in the finance industry, so there's a lot of like, oh, going to Vegas, eh? But yeah, all right, okay, cool. You know what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, right, buddy? And I was like, yes,
They're like, it's tax deductible.
yes, exactly. That's correct. Hookers, yes.
It's a business expense.
So yeah, like I totally get the vibe that this guy's coming from. I don't feel it as much as I used to. I used to really feel it. Like I was 100% leading a double life. I could have, instead of pursuing Warhammer, pursued any number of things that people like normal weirdos would do with a double life. Like I had a separate bank account. Like I had everything to do any sort of illicit stuff, and all I was doing was traveling around playing Warhammer. So, I feel much more. I'm like 1 foot out of the hobby closet
So
at this point.
what is your most embarrassing Warhammer story
Embarrassing Warhammer story? I don't
around
think
this line here?
around.
Because you said you hit your double life. Have you ever been found out and you're like, oh no?
I mean, the closest that I've ever come to like really spilling the beans would be like sending like a screen cap of something Warhammer related to the wrong group chat, like to my fantasy football chat or something like that. Like that'd be like the worst. But the thing about it is that I eventually learned, or at least I like somewhat understand intellectually, is like there is nothing more boring to another person than your hobby. Like, and there is just like, and you can play it by reversing roles, like someone just like really talking about distance running or something that they're like super into the nuance of. They don't give a shit.
No.
And like they're not judging you. Like everyone's got like a thing they think is weird that they love, and we're just, I don't know, some weird monkey thing. I don't know what it is.
That's true. Next up here, from Shazo Salamander, was listening to back episodes of the Poor Hammer podcast, and the host described playing Space Marines as a subscription service. And that's just such an insanely succinct way of describing everything wrong with the current state of Codex Space Marines.
Yeah.
Question for you, Val, and in chat as well, is it a succinct way of describing everything wrong?
I would say that, like me personally, and especially since I've been so into a dead game, and I always thought that was stupid. When I was like really in on 40K, and like people like weren't hanging on every release and like dissecting every new thing that was coming as it was coming, and they weren't just on that tip, and like they were sort of behind on stuff. I'd be like, what the hell? You don't know about X, Y, or Z? What? Like, come on, this has been out for 20 minutes now. Like I just thought it was absurd that someone would play like 3rd edition 40K. And then like then I started playing a game that was done. And like Warhammer Fantasy Battles 8th edition, for all of its, bad parts, I guess people don't like about it. It just is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And it stays static, and you can kind of move to things at your own pace, and it's great. So like the relentless churn of 40K does grind on me now a bit. And so like I kind of get how the idea of it being as a subscription service as being annoying. That being said, literally being a subscription service, whether that be rules or models being sent to you, or what, mostly rules, like just being able to pay like a Netflix number for up to the date latest stuff that's fact and errated properly. Now that appeals to me. I think that's awesome. I think that idea actually is awesome.
There's a sort of real world example of that working really well as well. And that example is wrestling in WWE, where they had the pay-per-view business model, where every month they had a $60 pay-per-view. which you had to buy. And they destroyed that business model by doing a $10 a month subscription service. And while that, like I said, they do no pay-per-view now pretty much, but the amount of money they get in from people, because I'll throw away $10 a month. I won't even think about it. Might not even watch it, but $60, that's a lot of money. So kind of like looking at that, people will give you $120 over a year a lot quicker than they will $120 at one time.
Yeah. And they seem to be wheeling Warhammer Plus in this direction. Like with the fact that they made they put the army builder behind the paywall and stuff, but they're still tying you to stupid codexes, they're half cocked on this right now. And I feel like people would gladly give them money for value.
They just got to pull the trigger.
Yeah, man.
We're going to skip forward a few here and this will be one more. There we go. Beautiful. This one right here, Warhammer's official Twitter account, or I'm sorry, X account, which just, it sounds like a porn site. I hate it so much. But they said, we know who we think would win. Which character are you choosing on the Sassy Nurgling, and what would their stats be? So I took that question very literally. And if we go to the next slide here, we have our first champion.
Oh, boy.
Danny, our beloved co-host and legal counsel and very official and real lawyer.
So hold on, let's go up one here. So is this a game that exists that they're using? Because like, why aren't they just using a data card? My first question.
Well, it's like a top trump game. It's a very popular thing in the UK. Combat cards, I believe, is what they're called.
Oh, so this is a thing. Okay, this is a thing I don't understand. Got it.
Yeah, perfect. Like much of Warhammer, I don't understand it either, but that's okay. Gives me a chance to show this beauty. And by the way, I just love this picture of Danny. He's not married to a heart face. I'm just being very considerate of his wife. But
she has trouble being seen in public with him. That's true.
That's fair. That's fair. But chat, Val, what's Danny's power out of 100 and why?
I mean, he'd be up there. Like, the guy is bear sized. So, I don't know if you don't want to like be hyperbolic here. I don't know what you got to leave room for power creep in the meta. So I'm going to go with a solid 91.
91. So you're going to do this here? Probably. All right. So for speed, how fast is Danny?
I mean, 12 just comes to mind immediately. Lumbering.
I don't believe he's a lot of power in the base. He doesn't have a lot of.
He's a slow move. He's a grinder.
He's a grinder. Perfect. All right. So we're in 12 here, and just no notes from chat. That's perfect. They're just like thrown away by this content. And then perfect. And then in intellect, where's his intelligence at? Be brutal as possible.
Well, I mean, he is a lawyer. Officially. He's clearly got some brain chops. I'm gonna give him a 75.
A 75. The old C grade. Okay, we're gonna go 75, and I'll fix all this later and make it pretty. Maybe I'll put it in the member section, but I'll probably forget. And then we have intellect. How do you think his intellect rates?
Did we just do intellect? I think we're on glory.
Oh, glory. Yeah, where's his glory?
Well, he's I don't want to call him the prototypical big fish in a small pond, because I'm not sure that there are fish in Alaska. But
there is not. There's no animals in Alaska.
But he has had some glory. And so I would say, I would put him in the 70s again. We're gonna go 77 on glory.
77. What about sass?
You know what? Let's go with a solid 69 on glory, actually.
Oh, 69. Perfect. All right. And then sass. Where's Danny's sass?
I think this is where he really maxes out his power and his ability. I think that's a 99. I think he's a 99 on sass.
So he maxes out by going below the maximum.
Really? They don't cap out at 99?
Caps out at 100.
Caps out at 100? Then we want to leave one tick. We want to leave one tick on the table.
You know what? No one's perfect. And there's always got to be room to improve. Perfect. I can't
wait for Danny to do me. We're gonna have to bring this scintillating bit back for one more.
We're gonna go here. Dickie. A very real, very actual photo of Dickie there as well. What is Dickie's power? Next slide. My bad.
Oh, right. He's not actually running the show. Okay,
There
here
we
we
go.
go. Dickie.
What is Dickie's power?
Okay, so we're gonna have to do, because Dickie doesn't show his face for some reason. We're gonna have to do this from the perspective of he is a Weedly servitor with what looks like a rolled up hot dog for lips.
Yes.
They're gross. I just so gross.
I chose
Gross
the worst
lips.
picture for you.
All right, so power. He is mechanical.
Yes.
I mean, that is one thing, and he clearly does have a wrench coming out of his back. We did just rate Danny in 91. Do we think Danny's more powerful than this weedy servitor?
Absolutely.
I'm going to say absolutely. I'm going to give him maybe a 55 in power.
55 in power. Great. What about speed? Is this a speedy servitor?
Or I mean, he does look like he's got some zip. He's got some zip. You know, I'd say 65 speed.
65. All right. And what about his intellect?
Intellect. I mean, I think that is something. Where do we benchmark? Where do we benchmark Danny here?
Danny is 75 on intellect.
Danny's 75 on intellect. I mean, again, we're talking about a human brain implanted into a machine. One's got to think that there's some sort of biomechanical, benefit to that. So, I'm gonna give him the edge here. I'm gonna say that the machine enhanced Dickie rocking a solid 80 intellect.
80 intellect, real smart. What about glory? Where does Dickie rank for glory?
I mean, glory. He's had some actual, like, pretty significant glory out there. Pretty significant glory. I'm gonna say 69 again for the glory.
Nice. And then sass.
Sass. I mean, the reality is, no one could make me more upset faster than Tech Priest Dickie.
That's true. And that's just because you love him so much, and he deserves it.
I do genuinely love him. He is Uncle Dickie. But he can just level me with his sidelong digs. Maybe because he has the same vulnerabilities as I do. I don't know, but I'm gonna give him 100 on sass.
100, no room for error, just maximum sass.
Maximum
time.
One maximum sass.
And guys, once we get these cards done, I'll pretty them up. I didn't think about typing live until I did it.
That was pretty impressive on the fly, and it still fits in the screen somehow. So that's great.
Mostly. But now is the part of the show I'm most looking forward to. One, it's a new bumper, but two, it's time for fan fiction.
Here we go.
What's happening?
Back to me. But yeah, shorter bumpers? No. Longer joke bumpers. It's where it's at. Questions, Val.
Okay, so it seems like this is the same bit we've had in the past, but you seem more excited about it. I'm curious to know what's going on.
So I have spent the past at least 3 months trolling the internet for terrible fan fiction, and guys, it's bad. So bad I can't make an entertaining segment about it because it's just awful. So I went and I used ChatGPT to make my own fan fiction that I had Pete the Falcon read, that I had Val read. After a while,
that was weird.
That gets samey, though it was cool to see Val's face as he slowly realized it was his voice that he was hearing, though he didn't say those words.
And Stat Center voice, too.
It was his Stat Center
very
voice.
Strange.
That is because I stole your voice from an old Stat Center episode.
Yeah.
Which is how I got that one there. But this time, what I've done, and man, I said in the Grim Court in our very own Discord, it's one of my favorite things we've ever done, but it's a hell of a lot more work. I created fan fiction in the style of a kid's TV show.
Okay.
So if you are all ready, we have the premiere episode of Abby the Despoiler.
Hola, I'm Abaddon the Despoiler. And I'm Karn the Betrayer. Today, my friend Karn the Betrayer and I are leading the 13th Black Crusade against El Imperio del Hombre, the Imperium of Man. But first, first we need your help finding a way to break through the Cadian Gate. Vamonos! Let's go ask Ariman the Sorcerer if he knows how to get past the Cadian defenses. Ariman, do you see a way for our Black Fleet to break through the Cadian Gate? You see a possibility to open the gate by destroying the ancient space stations in orbit around Cadia? Great idea. Now let's check the star map. Star map, where should we strike first to begin breaking Cadia's defenses?
I have virus bombs and planet killer weapons you can use to overwhelm the Imperial fleet at Cadia. Yay!
Uh-oh, it's Inquisitor Swiper. He's trying to stop our 13th Black Crusade before it can begin. Everybody yell, Swiper no swiping.
Oh!
Oh shit!
You'll never stop the blood tide of Khorne, puny Inquisitor.
Wow.
Stop,
Okay.
Swiper. Now our invasion can proceed. Gracias for helping us plan the 13th Black Crusade. Now Kern, Ariman, Backpack Map, and all the forces of chaos can get past Cadia and rampage across the galaxy. We did it. Lologramos.
Skulls for the Skull Throne, blood for the Blood God.
Now, I have a question.
Questions. Yeah.
Why did you take the Discourse mini person and make them Karn the Betrayer?
That is actually, weirdly enough, we can start a conspiracy theory on that. That was the Chat GPT childlike voice. Or the voice cloning software I use. They have default voices on there, and that was a good child's voice. Like, was it actually? Let me see here real quick.
Hola, I'm Abaddon the Despoiler.
And I'm Karn the Betrayer.
That's
Oh,
Discourse
shit, it
mini.
is. Yeah, that's hilarious. So now, new thing. It's not. She's just an AI, voice controlled.
Wow.
It's part of
That
Skynet's plan.
was actually the most fun one. Like, did you do the sound effects and stuff in there?
I pulled everything down from various sites, like chainsaw sounds. Yeah, I put a lot of work into that one.
That was exceptional. And
Yeah.
I could really see the little chibi cartoons that go with that.
Guys, if you know a good quality animator who works for below minimum wage, let us know. We'll go into a profit sharing agreement with them.
Yeah, because there's like no chance that we'd get a CND over that.
No, not at all. It's
no.
Abby the Despoiler.
It'd be fine. This is totally
Yeah.
different. This just reminds me like of just the pure rage people had when GW started releasing like the youth fiction books.
Warhammer Adventures. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which those books were great, by the way.
I'm sure they were fine. I'm sure they were fine. I was actually thinking about the Jedi Academy books from Star Wars that I used to.
I started watching that show with my 4-year-old the other day, and he very much enjoyed it, even though he was disappointed to know when I told him, one of the characters uses a purple lightsaber, which means that she has dark side affinity and use dark side powers. And two, it didn't matter what happened in the story because they would all be murdered by Anakin Skywalker anyway. Very upset when I told him that, but sometimes you just got to grow up.
Yeah, all at once.
Oh, perfect. Val, we're gonna wrap this on up here. Anything you want to add before we leave for the day and you take a little holiday?
Yep, going on a nice little road trip into the Canadian the Ontarian, I guess also Canada wilderness. Should be great. You'll have Dickie back next week. I will shout out Team Canada. One loss only at the WTC this year, which is actually super cool. Sure, 2 wins and 4 draws as well. But that's still
very
amazing.
Canadian.
They wound up, unfortunately, roughly where they always wind up. I think it might still be one of their best showings. I'd have to go look, but I think they wound up somewhere around 14th. I don't want to misrepresent it, but it was still like a clear step forward for Team Canada, and so many people I really enjoy were on the team. So congrats to you guys for a hard-fought tournament. I'm sure Pete will tell us why. Would tell us why it actually wasn't, and Dickie will talk about all the people he was just aimlessly chatting with throughout the whole event.
Yeah, next week Val is on an adventure around Canada's Great Unknown, but Dickie will be back to take us through everything that happened at WTC. Well, not everything. I'm sure he wasn't everywhere at once. He's not a creeper. No matter how many times I asked him to film in the bathroom, he refused. I just wanted to see if there was dice there. But Dickie will be back to talk about his adventures in WTC. Danny should be back to talk about his adventures in Western Canada. And then I will be back to, again, hopefully share another episode of Abby the Despoiler.
And proud we are of all of them.
Yes. Yeah, very proud of everyone there. Apart from us, who didn't really do anything exciting. Apart from Val introduced a new generation to miniature wargaming.
Blood Bowl, but yeah.
I made it sound better than Anyway, thank you for everyone for joining us here in Grim After Dark. You can find all of our socials and ways to support Grim After Dark at grimafterdark.com. We'll be back next Monday live at 10 p.m. Eastern-ish. If you can't catch us live, subscribe to the podcast on all good services and get an abridged version every Tuesday-ish on YouTube. And before we go, chat, let us know. We made top trump cards for Dickie and Danny. What would your power, speed, and intellect be? What would your sass be? I've seen your comment section. You think it's going to be about 80, 90? Really, it's about 20, 30. But anyway, when things can't get any worse and life feels like a never-ending siege, remember there's always Grim After Dark.
It's time to step into the grim darkness where nerds gather talking Warhammer madness. Grim After Dark, the podcast with the hosts John, Danny, and Val, but they're not the most. Claiming to be experts, but it's all a facade. Talking about battles and dice rolls, they're all odd. Trying to sound cool with their Warhammer talk, but I'm here to expose. It's all just squawk. Nerds, everywhere I see talking Warhammer this, like it's a decree. But let me tell you, homie, it is all just a game. In the real world, homie, we are not the same. So put down the dice, step out of the dark. It's time to live life, nerd, make your own mark. Grim After Dark, the nerds playground. Talking Warhammer this, acting all profound. But when I listen, it's all just a bunch of noise. I love roasting nerds and their stupid ass toys. Stupid ass toys, I wanna grab them, put my hands around the neck, squeeze, Warhammer squeeze, until they can't breathe again. Tell a friend, I'm out here roasting nerds again.